The courtroom was buzzing with anger on the face of a white woman whose ex-lover had denied child support. Besides, we both know that his mother probably used most of the money for her selfish gain, so there's no point adding more money for her to squander, was Jerome's response when he was asked why he didn't want to increase the money for child support. His response shocked everyone, including the judge. However, as the case progressed, the revelation from the judge was a surprising twist that raised questions that no one expected. Why did Jerome deny child support to his own child, and what did the judge discover? Natalie Barnes sighed in frustration. She took off her glasses and pinched the bridge of her nose. This turned out to be a more complicated case than she had expected, and it didn't help matters that the defendant and the plaintiff were both at each other's throats, neither one willing to shut up and listen. She just wanted this to be over so she could go home, open a bottle of wine, and just be. But no. This ex-couple in front of her seemed hell-bent on making sure that that fantasy was delayed. She looked at the papers in front of her. The plaintiff, Miss Elaine Sanders, sued her ex-boyfriend, Jerome Harvey, over the amount agreed upon for child support. She felt that Jerome was not giving her enough money, and when she confronted him about it, he told her that it was the best he could do. She did not believe him for a moment, so she took the matter to court. So, Miss Sanders, can you tell me why you believe my client, Mr. Jerome, withholds money for his son's child support? Jerome's lawyer, Mr. Nicholas Baltimore, asked her. She shrugged and said, I know someone like Jerome does not make much money. He is a plumber, for goodness sake. But last week, I saw him driving a new car. Where on earth did he get that kind of money? Besides, I need money for my rent and to care for Stephen. As the boy's father, he is responsible for ensuring Stephen is well-fed and lacks nothing. How can he call himself a good dad and refuse to give money for his son's well-being? She said while glaring daggers at Jerome, who glared back. So, Miss Elaine, from your explanation, you expect Jerome to house you. Is that correct? Mr. Nicholas asked. Elaine turned red in the face. I care for his son, and he is supposed to pay the rent. After all, where would the poor boy live? She asked. Miss Elaine, please refrain from asking questions while in the witness box, Natalie reprimanded. Yes, Your Honor, she answered in a subdued tone. Do you have a job? Mr. Nicholas asked Miss Elaine. Yeah, she answered softly. I work in a hair salon. It does not pay much, but at least we have food on the table. Elaine hated courts. There was so much strife and tension in the air. If she could, she would not be here, but everything she did right now was for her son. She had a gut feeling that Jerome had more money than he said he did, and she was ready to fight for her son's rights. Never mind the fact that ever since they broke up and she had given birth to Stephen, he had been an absent father. He was always missing his appointments and skipping days when he was supposed to meet Stephen. How did she not know he was like this when she met him? Jerome and Elaine had met while they were in high school. It had been lovely at first sight, and they were both blinded by love. Or rather, she had been the only one blinded by love. She was flattered when Jerome came to ask her out. He was a nobody, and she was the main cheerleader of the football squad. She was the envy of all the girls in school, and she basked in it. Then, she had met Jerome, and everything changed. People wondered how someone like Elaine would fall for a guy like him, but it did not matter to her. What mattered was that she had found the love of her life. Then, in her final year in high school, she discovered she was pregnant. It came as a shock to her and Jerome, but he assured her he was willing and happy to become a father. That was all the encouragement she needed. She dropped out of school and decided to learn hairdressing at the local hair salon. Of course, people gossiped, but she did not mind. After all, people will always talk. Jerome went on to college and, after 4 years, graduated with a major in English. Elaine had never been more proud of him. It had not been easy with Jerome, but she tried to make it work. However, everything changed after he graduated. He became distant and cold. Whenever he was around, he was often distracted and unfocused. Elaine felt panic rising in her belly, but crushed it down. Was he tired of her? She wondered. Childbirth had taken a toll on her physical appearance, so she did not feel confident in her appearance. Whenever she tried to talk to him about it, he seemed agitated and would divert her attention. This continued for several months until she finally confronted him about it, but what he said next was not what she expected. She never saw it coming. Elaine, since you are unhappy with me, maybe we should break up. We can't keep living like this. You are not happy, and I am not happy, so let's end this. Never in her life had she been so heartbroken. She tried to reason with him, but to no avail. Eventually, they separated, and Elaine took him to court over child custody and won. By the time they tried to set up the amount for child support, Jerome did not have a job. So the plan was to let her handle the bulk of the financial burden until he found a job. Then, last month, while at the grocery store, she looked out the window only to see Jerome come out of a brand new car. At first, she was surprised. Then she got angry. Their deal had been that the moment he got a job, they would appeal to the court to increase the amount he was supposed to pay for child support. When she confronted him, he dared to act like he did not know her. She was so hurt and angry. When she got home and consulted her friend Marie, her response was, "I think you should be reasonable about this. It is good that you want the best for your son, but you also do not want him to grow up and feel like you tried to ruin his relationship with his father over a few dollars. Maybe there is a reason why Jerome responded coldly to you, so try calling him and asking him what's up. You can go to court with a clear conscience if that doesn't work." Elaine thought about it. Her friend was right. So, the next day she dialed Jerome's number. He picked up and said, "Hello, who is this?" A wave of fury rushed into her. Did he delete her number? She counted to 10 in her head to try to calm down. Then she said clearly, "It's me, Elaine. It's been a while. How have you been?" There was silence on the other end for a few minutes, and then he said, "I'm good. How about you?" She wanted to laugh in frustration. He dared to ask her that, but she needed to keep a cool head, so she responded politely, "I'm fine." "So, about the child support that you have been paying, since things are looking up for you now, I was thinking that maybe you could increase the amount that you've been putting into the child support account." Jerome paused, then said, "We haven't spoken in a while, and the first thing you call to talk to me about is money. You must be a greedy woman. So you mean you have been with me all this time because of money? You will not get a dime from me other than what you already get. In fact, you should be thankful that you are getting anything at all." Then he hung up. Elaine looked at the phone in shock. Never in her life would she have imagined that Jerome would ever talk to her like that. Anger and tears stung her eyes. "All right, Jerome, if it's war you want, then it's war you'll get," she concluded. The next day, she went to hire an attorney. His name was Mr. Mike Allen. After reviewing her case and explaining her rights and how the scenario would play out, he filed a petition and took it to court. Within 3 days, a court summons was issued to Jerome. So here they were, glaring daggers at each other in court. Judge Natalie looked at the two of them and sighed. Family disputes are always one of the most challenging cases to solve. Clients were emotionally involved, and emotions have a terrible way of clouding judgment. She looked at the documents before her. Apparently, Jerome did not pay child support for his son when he was gone, so frankly speaking, he owed a lot of money. Natalie looked at Elaine. She knew that the whole thing about house rent was a fluke. She just wanted to piss Jerome off. However, something did not seem right with the Jerome of a guy. She kept looking at him, trying to figure out what was happening to him. He did not seem nervous, only angry. One might even say he looked hurt. Was it because he thought Elaine would not take the issue to court? Her instincts told her that something was wrong, and as a good judge, it was her job to ensure justice was served. Hence, she never ignored her instincts. She looked at the documents again and tried to find the missing puzzle piece. She felt a headache coming on the longer she stared. So she sent the court out on recess. Nicholas Sanchez took a seat and exhaled. He looked at the man he was representing in court and asked, "Sir, do you think what we are doing is right? I know that you people have the money to pay what she's asking, so why are you still fighting this case?" "Just because I have the money doesn't make this my responsibility," Jerome responded. "Besides, look at how she just left me without a fight. But when it comes to money, she is willing to go to court for it. Such things are just not fair." "Sir," Mr. Nicholas tried again. "Maybe if you told her the truth." Before he could finish, Jerome interrupted. "Telling her the truth wouldn't make a difference. Let's see how it goes." "But sir," Mr. Nicholas began again with a worried look, "what if we lose the case?" "That's why I'm paying you to ensure we don't. I'll tell her everything after we are done with this mess," said Jerome, and then he stood up as the judge marched back to the podium. The session of questions began again with Jerome in the witness stand. "So, Mr. Jerome," Mr. Mike began, "how would you describe your relationship with your son?" "I would say that we are on good terms and get along fairly well," Jerome responded. "Mr. Jerome, when was the last time you saw your son?" Mike asked, and Jerome swallowed nervously before responding. It's been a while since I last saw him, but the issue is complicated. Can you at least give an estimated time of when you last saw your son? Mr. Mike insisted. Jerome began to fidget in his seat. Meanwhile, Natalie watched him with rapt attention. He was hiding something. She was sure of it, and it had something to do with why he had been missing for 2 years. Another family out there? She mused. Mr. Jerome? Natalie asked. Can I see a recent picture of you with your son? She saw a flash of panic in his eyes. Sure, he said, and brought out his phone. After searching for a while, he finally brought it out and showed it to the judge. Natalie looked at the picture and stared at it for a long time. Then she looked at Jerome. With an expressionless face, she handed his phone back to him. You have a lovely son here. You may continue, she directed to Mr. Mike. Mike asked more questions about Jerome's income and why he felt his son did not need more money. Jerome replied that the one he was paying was enough. Besides, he said, we both know that his mother probably used most of the money for her selfish gain, so there's no point adding more money for her to squander. Natalie took off her glasses. Then she dismissed the court and adjourned the case to the following Monday. As they all exited to their various places, Elaine looked at Jerome as he left. In so many ways, he was not the man she remembered. The man she encountered in the courtroom seemed like a total stranger to her. What had happened to him while he was away, she thought. Then she turned around and walked away. Stephen was with his grandma. She had to go pick him up and then prepare dinner. Natalie went back home. It was nice to soak in a bath after a long workday. She was known to be one of the best female judges in Marrakesh, among a few. She had worked twice as hard to prove herself worthy of being among the men in this profession. People trusted her sound judgment, but she was most respected for her sharp eye. Natalie never missed a piece of evidence, and so her judgment was carried out with all the facts in view. This was why she could discern that the man in the courtroom today was not Jerome Harvey. She sat in her home office and wondered, who was this individual claiming to be Jerome Harvey, and what was he playing at? All these questions ran through her mind. Her instincts told her that he was not dangerous. Still, she could not take the risk that an impostor was in her courtroom with hidden intentions. Had she made a mistake not exposing him on sight? She did not think so, but one can never be too sure. She hoped that she had made the right call with this one. After all, a child was involved. This led her to the next question. What was his purpose for doing this, and who was he really? The most important question was, if this was not the real Jerome, where was Jerome? The next few days passed by in a blur for Elaine. She was absent-minded at work and had trouble sleeping. Was all the stress and worry she was going through really worth it? She was happy with her son. They may not have much, but at least there was food on the table and a roof over their head. She did not mind working extra hours for her son. She loved him. She had accepted her fate with Jerome a long time ago. The whole court case now seemed trivial with regard to her son. Let him keep his money, she thought. My baby and I will get by just fine. The next day, she called her friend Marie and told her of her plan to call off the case. Marie looked at her friend with a worried look. Are you sure about this? Make sure you have thought about this carefully and don't do something you feel you will regret later, her friend advised. I'm sure, Elaine replied. I want to focus on my son. If Jerome wants nothing to do with us, that's fine. I want to focus on giving Stephen a better life. He deserves that. Marie hugged her friend. Whatever you decide, know I am here for you, and you are not alone, Marie responded. 2 days to the day of the hearing, however, Judge Natalie summoned Jerome and Elaine for a private session. As they sat in her office, she flipped through the case folder. Then she looked at Elaine. So, you do not want to continue with this case? Yes, Your Honor, I want to withdraw the case, Elaine responded. Natalie looked at Elaine for any trace of anxiety or fear, but she saw none. I see, Natalie replied, then continued flipping through the folder. Miss Elaine, can I see a picture of your son with Mr. Jerome over here for a minute? She said without looking up. Of course, Elaine said, wondering what she needed it for. When Elaine handed her phone to Judge Natalie with a picture of Jerome and Stephen, Natalie took Jerome's hand. Please raise your sleeves, she insisted. Jerome's eyes flashed in panic. What for? He asked suspiciously. Why? Well, I want to prove that you are not Jerome Harvey. Elaine looked at Judge Natalie with a confused look on her face. What is she talking about? She wondered. She looked at the man sitting beside her. He looked exactly like Jerome. What was this woman saying? However, Judge Natalie was persistent. "Roll up your sleeves, mister," she said, with her eyes cold and emotionless. Jerome swallowed. "Listen," he began. "I can explain." "Your sleeves, mister," Natalie insisted. He reluctantly rolled up his sleeves. Then Natalie began. "It seems you have been away from your son's father for a while, Miss Elaine. From this picture you have shown me, if you observe the tattoos on his skin, you can see that the pattern differs from the one on this man's arms." Elaine observed and saw that what Natalie said was true. Her eyes widened in disbelief. Who on earth had she been dragging to court? She looked at the face again. Everything was the same as Jerome's. If she had not observed what Natalie pointed out, she never would have doubted that he was Jerome. Horror washed over her features. Was he here to take her son away? Jackson was in a state of panic. So he had taken things into his own hands, but didn't expect the judge to find him out like this. He sighed. He needed to come clean. "It is true what you have said about me not being Jerome. My name is Jackson Harvey, and I'm Jerome's twin brother. However, our parents separated when we were little, so while he was with my mom, I was with my dad. I'm sorry for deceiving you. It was not intentional, and we just happened to meet at a bad time." "Where is Mr. Jerome Harvey?" Judge Natalie asked. He sighed and looked at Elaine. "I'm sorry, but he passed away 2 years ago." Elaine gasped in shock. "No, that can't be true," Elaine said in disbelief. "I'm sorry, Elaine, but 6 years ago, when you broke up, it was because he had stage 3 cancer. The diagnosis came too late, so there was nothing he could do. He came to me for help. I did not know that he had a child. If I did, I would have done something about it." Jackson sighed and continued. "When I came to town and discovered that he had a son, I felt that you had kept him away from his father. I was upset, and that was why I did what I did. I wasn't thinking, and I'm sorry. The second time you called me about the money, I was upset because I felt that you had been with my brother for money. But you aren't like that. I see that now. I know this doesn't compensate for what I did, but I am sorry." Elaine just sat there in shock. Jerome was no more. She turned to stare at Natalie. Natalie had a look of pity on her face. "I could charge you with impersonation and fraud," Natalie said coldly. "I'm sorry," he said with his head bowed in shame. "No," said Elaine. "No more cases. I need to leave now." And then she fled. Jackson bowed his head in shame. He needed to make up for what he had done. After a stern warning from Judge Natalie, he was let off the hook. For the next few days, Elaine was in a daze. She wondered about Jerome. She had loved him, and he had passed away, and she did not even know. She felt so sad that he had been alone. She would have to tell Stephen eventually. She did not know how. After work on a hot Sunday afternoon, she and Stephen strolled back to her apartment, holding hands. She approached the door and saw Jackson's car in the driveway. She frowned. She was not looking forward to seeing him again. She didn't expect Stephen to run to him and shout "Daddy" when he exited his vehicle. It broke her heart. Jackson crouched and said, "Sorry, champ, but I'm not your dad. You can call me Uncle Jackson, though." Tears stung her eyes, and she had to look away momentarily. Jackson noticed and came to her side. "I'm sorry for your loss, Elaine. I can't compensate for your loss. No one can replace a father, but I want your permission to be here for him, too. I know it's a lot to ask of you, but I will do everything possible to ensure he lacks nothing." Elaine smiled sadly and rubbed Stephen's back. She was sad and down, but somehow she felt everything would be okay. They would grieve and then move on, because life is about being broken, healing, and learning from past experiences. They will be okay. They just need time. If you were in Elaine's shoes, what would you do? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, like, share, and subscribe to this channel. You can also turn on the notification bell to be notified of new posts. Before you go, watch the other videos on your screen. See you next time.